Welcome to It's Kelsey, where we talk about rediscovering your inner roar. Have you ever felt stuck in a rut where you are just so overburdened by your self-doubt? Remember that feeling stuck doesn't mean you're actually stuck, and that you're recognizing resistance to your current way of being. In this video, we'll explore how to overcome your self-doubt, overcome negative self-talk, and cultivate your self-worth. Many of us get stuck in a loop of negative self-talk, and this cycle is really just your unconscious and your ego playing against you. It's ultimately thinking that it's helping you because it's trying to keep you safe. It's like, hey, we think you're getting into a dangerous zone, so we're gonna just, cut off all of this crazy change, and we're gonna say you need to stay in the same box because this box we know is safe, and we're gonna keep you in this box because we know it'll keep you safe and comfortable. And that is primarily what your body will do just out of safety factor, but realistically your ego doesn't always have your best interests at heart. Your best interests come from your subconscious, and your subconscious won't ever give you like a idea that says, hey, like we should stop doing all of these things, we should stop doing this, we should stop doing that. So let's deep dive into the talk today. So grab your favorite coffee, favorite beverage, sit down, get cozy, and let's chat about building your self-confidence after you've been feeling so overwhelmed with self-doubt. Because we all go through it. It's just a part of unlearning all the things you learned as a kid. I know that sounds kind of backwards because it kind of is. But a lot of the things that you learned as a kid was actually just an extension of your parents. Generally, if you don't resonate or you don't believe in what your parents believed, then you're going to feel disconnected from who you are and who yourself is. And that's going to give you a lot of self-doubt. And then when you have a lot of self-doubt, you're also going to have low self-worth because you're constantly doubting yourself, thinking that you're not worth anything. And that is the biggest lie, is that you are worth something. You are already so full of love, and that is our original state when we come to this earth. We are meant to offer the world something, and each one of us knows what that something is. Your inner child knows what that something is. You just have to find it again, because when we're growing up and when we're getting thrown in like these different beliefs and these different beliefs, and we pile it all in, we often pile down that part of us that's like our inner child. And then our inner child was the one that knew what we are here to bring to this earth. So we have to kind of get rid of these layers and these layers and these layers. And those are going to then get us down to that inner child, that inner being of who we are deep, 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 deep down. Deep down. And I know this sounds kind of wild because I really didn't think there was much to this inner child healing before I started it. I used to think like, yeah, like I had a kid in me and I still feel like I have that kid in me. But it's really true that like if you haven't had that child parented properly, or not necessarily properly, but more to how you are as a human being, and you got missed out on some things maybe from your childhood that would have been beneficial, you have the chance to reparent that into you. And it's kind of cool to think about it that way, because you then know that if there's anything that really starts to bother you, you can kind of like take yourself, go back into who you are as an inner child and say, hey, I'm here. I'm here to help you. I'm here to be there for you. I am here to listen to who you are, listen to your feelings. I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that is so cool that our brains allow us to do that. Really. I think it's a very cool superpower. To get back onto topic, I figured I would pick 3 things that I would believe contributed to my own self-doubt and low self-worth. I wanted to bring up each one of those 3 things so that it can help you. One of the first blocks that I think I had was not feeling enough. And I feel like this is a pretty relatable one, even though we don't talk about it. We don't talk about not being enough. Especially nowadays with our social media and everything going on, we don't talk about not being enough. Like, that's just not something we say. I think so many of these beliefs of not being enough come from some of our closest relationships growing up. And some of mine was family, and some of mine was my best friend. Each one of these relationships that I had in my life imposed these unrealistic expectations on me, making me feel like I wasn't enough. Some of them were obviously meaningless in a sense that they didn't see it in that same light. They put those expectations on me out of wanting me to do what's best for me. I think that part of growing up and learning is to learn through those mistakes and those little parts of you that like you need to go through the actions to figure that out. And then I think another part of those imposed things were insecurities in my own friends and my own family. They see something in me that scares them because they didn't feel they had that. So instead of just admitting that to themselves, they would impose a doubt towards what I was doing. An example of this was my papa. He was a very wasn't always with the best intentions, but he always liked to give his opinion. And I'm sure a lot of people have people like that in their lives. So the biggest thing that I felt that had an impact on my own feeling of enough was that everything that I did and that I was and all of my true being was never viewed as enough in his eyes. And I knew from other family members that this is how this person was, so I didn't take as much of it to heart as I could have. I just feel that it really did impact me in some of the comments. Even I feel like if you get a comment about how you shouldn't do something because it's not gonna be good for you, or something along those lines, especially as a kid growing up, even if you're told by other family and other friends that this person doesn't have good intentions, these words that are said to you still will make an impact on your brain. And they will still be like, oh, I know I shouldn't believe that, but could it be true? Could what that person said actually be true? Because let's face it, sometimes the words just hit real hard in your heart, and you just can't undo that in a way, you know? I think that the biggest breakthrough I had realistically with this feeling was that a lot of the times, I'm so sorry, my eyelash is just not working with me right now. Learning that they have an insecurity with themselves, or that they doubt their own dreams, or that they doubt that they can ever achieve anything in their own life, or they didn't try to achieve anything in their own life. I think that those are big pieces to remember when you're dealing with your feeling of not being enough and changing that into something positive, because a lot of the things that someone will say to you, even if they feel like they have good intentions around it, will come from their own feeling of not enough or their own insecurity. That's a really crazy thing to think about, isn't it? That someone will impose these feelings of not enough onto you because that's how they feel. Yeah. It was a big eye-opener for me when I started going through this healing process, because when you think about it, it really starts to make sense, but at first you're like, no, they just don't think I'm enough. And it's not true. It's really not. That leads us into our second one. Believing that everything has to be perfect. Can you tell me what perfect is? I didn't think so. Because perfect doesn't exist. Perfect is just never going to be achievable. So you're always going to be reaching and reaching and reaching, and it's never going to be achievable. So don't keep trying to be perfect. There is no such thing. You can only do and try as hard as you personally can, and that is always going to be enough. Leading back into that first point of not being enough, that not being perfect. Perfectionism is an insecurity or a lack of confidence, and a lot of the times it also leads into procrastination. Procrastination becomes a common thing when you're looking to achieve perfectionism, because perfection is never going to be truly there. So then you try to eliminate that perfection stage because you deep down know it's not going to be able to be perfect. So instead you either deviate or you procrastinate or you dissociate. It becomes this big cycle of wanting to achieve perfection, realizing it's not going to be perfect, dissociating or procrastinating, and then it comes back around to trying to achieve perfection. And it's just a vicious circle of trying to be that perfect person. It just doesn't make sense. It really does not make sense. A lot of times this will also happen when you have family members that strive to have an image, like a perfect image. And if you have a perfect image, what is a perfect image? Then that also stems into more cycles of perfectionism. So the biggest breakthrough in this thing that causes self-doubt is that because there's no such thing as perfectionism, vulnerability and being authentic are the truest winners in all of this. Because you can always be your authentic self and you can choose to be vulnerable. And both things are so much more relatable than a perfect person. And I think that was the biggest breakthrough, is that you can be authentic and you can choose to be vulnerable, and then that starts to create a beautiful story. And there's always going to be hills and valleys. It's always going to be a mountain, and then you're going to see the top, and then you're going to go down and you're going to get another mountain. And you're just going to be climbing mountains all your life. And we have to be good with having these adversities and knowing that just because something is not feeling easy at the time, there will be a reward at the end of it. There will be that thing to look forward to. Following that journey is going to be part of getting to see that view, because the journey up the mountain is still gorgeous. There's still so much wildlife. There's still so much nature to look at. There's still these paths to climb and these paths to navigate. And climbing up that mountain is just so beautiful that we need to take in the journey, take in the sights, take in the ups, the downs. The trail's not going to be a perfect line up the mountain either. Being able to navigate that with your vulnerability, your authenticity, true to who you are, and is going to get rid of that doubt because you know that you're going to get to the top of the mountain. Leads us into our third point, feeling like you are too bright to shine. Feeling like you're too bright. You are given the beauty of being able to shine. You are given that beauty. You are given the ability to shine. You're given the ability to be that light to the world because they need that. Don't turn it down for anybody. And I feel like I'm getting emotional on this one because so many times in my self-doubt, I would turn down my brightness or my light because I didn't want to outshine somebody. I didn't want to be better than them. I didn't want to draw more attention to me over someone else because I wanted to keep the peace, or I wanted to make everyone happy. You're never going to make everyone happy. Never ever will you make everyone happy. It is impossible. It's like trying to be perfect. You're never going to make everyone happy at all. You were given this light to shine because those who need that light will find you. If you're not shining your brightness at full capacity, some of those people aren't going to see it. Because it's like if you had your flashlight on and you had it at half the lumens, you're pointing it around trying to get everyone in your group to see you, you're going to miss some people. You're going to miss some people if you don't shine your light that bright. There's no harm in turning your light on full brightness. Show the world that beautiful story, that beautiful bit of kindness, whatever it is, will only be seen if you're on full brightness. And yes, we're going to have days where we can't shine our full brightness, but you can still shine the fullest part of that brightness you have that day. Yeah, our batteries will get low, but we can put new batteries in, or we can recharge them, and then we'll be at full brightness again. You're not going to be able to share that gift that you were given if you aren't showing that gift. But by continuing to ask ourselves questions about what we believe and about what we are feeling, you're able to ask yourself those questions. You're able to say, hey, hold on a minute. Why am I feeling this way? Asking for help is important. Being hyper independent isn't going to help your self-worth and your self-doubt. You still need to ask for help when you haven't been able to figure out the answers, or just in general, because you can't do everything on your own all the time. And lastly, that learning that you are loved regardless of what others tell you. You are love. Love is you. We are all born into the wholeness of love. And if you haven't heard it enough, I love you. I hope that this video found you in the right time, and I hope that some of these pieces of advice from my own life helps you. If you have any other self-doubt things that have been bothering you and you want some help into that, please see the one-on-one below discovery calls. Let's find out if we'll work good together. Or if you just want to add something that you found helpful, please comment below and tell me what things helped you in the video and what things that you have been working on in your own journey. All right, well, we will see you next Thursday. Peace.